So I'm actually really excited to be here because of all the places I've gotten to speak, I've actually never gotten to speak in Chicago before. And Ray turns me down every year, and somehow I managed to finally convince him to accept me. And we're going to talk about my very favorite topic. So let's talk about apprenticeships. What I want to do first is I want to tell you where I'm coming from on this. So I'm an engineer. I have been for 13 years. I've been a hiring manager. I've controlled recruiting and onboarding and all kinds of things for companies. And I have had in the past a problem that I think a lot of you probably have as well. Can anyone raise your hand if you wish you could find more talented people to add to your team? A couple people, right? It's tough. And so I was in this situation where I'm trying to find more people to add to my team, and I found one, but I found one in a very strange situation. What I found was a woman working in our call center. And she had been teaching herself to program in her free time. So she's working overtime in our call center in her free time. She's trying to become a programmer. And this is the kind of person I want to grab. And so I invited her to come in for an interview, and I said, you know, great, let's get you on the team. And she failed our interview. Because of course she failed our interview. Because it's impossible in that kind of difficult situation to really get up to speed and get up to where we want people to be. But during that interview, it also confirmed a lot of the other assumptions that I was making, the things that I had hoped. I found this person, she knows our customers better than any of us. And certainly better than any of the junior developers we're trying to bring in, right? She's somebody who's really tenacious. Anybody who spends 50 hours in a call center and then still tries to spend time changing their careers is going to be tenacious. And she's got life experience. You know, she's got some of those other experiences that most of us who maybe, you know, took the easy track through graduation and into jobs haven't had. So I want to hire this person. And it's funny because I think, so like I said, I've been in this for 13 years. Anyone else here old? Yeah, a couple people willing to admit it. All right, so this was, well, without all the high potential things, this was me. All right, this was me. 10 years ago, 13 years ago, you know, I didn't meet the bar either. But I think it was actually easier back then. Because back then, all I had to do was go and, you know, like, make some HTML tables, and my biggest problem in life is whether my spacer GIFs lined up. Old people laughed at that. The rest of you have no idea. But it's complicated now, right? Like I used to be able to just do a little bit of CSS. Now I have to understand how that framework happens, how it interacts with my, you know, JavaScript framework. And so where I could have gotten that job and maybe a couple months in, I'm up to speed, the ramp is too far now. And I think instead, if you're somebody who's coming from a college background now, internships have stepped into that position a little bit better. So if you're an intern, you've got another ramp in, but if you're not coming from a college background, A, you don't know about them, right? You probably don't know where to find them. B, if you even get an interview, it's going to be like graph traversal or some of these things that you probably will never actually use, but you got taught in computer science school. So you're not going to get that job anyway. And then even if you do get the internship, usually they're targeted towards people who are really not locked into what job they're going to go to. So it just kind of ends. So I can't ask somebody to quit their job for a 3-month internship that there's really no reason to believe will turn into a job at the end of that. That is completely unreasonable. So we decided just to hire her anyway. So we created a program. If you've never seen an apprenticeship before, you might have an idea of how they look. They're really different. It's something that we haven't done a ton of in this industry, so there's still a lot of variability. It was 6 months, and her goal was really just to bring her technical skills from that level below our bar to at the bar. The main output of what she did was learning. So unlike a junior where you need them to be shipping code, most of what she's doing is learning. We paid her a living wage. You must pay your employees a living wage. You must pay your employees a living wage. And we had her pair with a bunch of different people. So we had people volunteer to mentor her, but she actually went through our whole department. There, you know, this is a group of like 80 people, and so she paired with everybody she could. And we thought, like, we're going to have this person come in, and we'll hire them, and we'll get, you know, an awesome junior developer. And what we didn't realize is that there would actually be a whole bunch of extra benefits. And this first one is really interesting to me because it's the most surprising one to me. When we started hiring apprentices, we increased retention with our senior developers. So we were tracking people who had been here for like, you know, 3 years, and they're about at that level where a lot of people jump off. And we actually had higher retention rates. And I would love to talk to you about that, but I don't have time to go into it for this talk. But come see me, and I want to talk about that because I haven't totally figured it out. Because she had less tolerance for ambiguity, because she didn't have all the same background that we did, we actually had to formalize some of our processes and realized that they are dumb. And so we got to fix stupid processes, because nothing makes you fix it faster than writing down how dumb your process is in excruciating detail. And we got access to a wider candidate pool. So this is something where, is anyone from DevMind in the crowd? No? Okay, so they did a post recently on their apprenticeship program. They said they got 200 applicants for like 2 slots. They got to pick the top, well, that's 1% of applicants, and they really got somebody personalized for what they're doing. So a lot of really cool side benefits. And it worked, actually. So she was promoted to a regular developer. It was really successful. The program of that company is still running strong, and it's something that I'm really proud of. I've since left that company, and what I have been doing since then is trying to talk to more companies about these apprenticeships, about these kind of programs. And so what I want to do here, I didn't know which to underline, which not, in a double not. I want to talk to you, so those of you who are listening who have not started an apprenticeship, I think there are probably about 3 things right now that you don't want to have one for. So I want to touch on those for just a moment. I think first, one of the things that people really come back with as a problem is we don't know how to hire them, right? This is somebody who, by definition, does not have a really strong knowledge of any given framework. And something that sometimes is surprising is they also don't have a lot of those software processes. So if our hiring is, let's look at how their Git flow works, they don't know it. And so this is a big challenge when you're hiring people. But if you haven't looked at them before, look into behavioral interview questions. We have ways we can solve this. And what we can do is basically look at the trajectory of a person as opposed to their position right now. This is absolutely a solvable problem. Time and money costs. This is absolutely, it's an investment. It takes time. So for us, looking at that retention, for instance, I would have happily just thrown that money away even if she hadn't succeeded in that program, because that retention would have been worth what we were paying her anyway. But that cost is real, and it's something that you need to be careful of. I would say that a living wage in Cook County is less than you've paid any of your developers, and it's also way more than somebody's making coming from another background, if they're in retail or if they're in any of these other non-professional jobs. But it's something to keep track of, but it shouldn't stop you. And then expertise. What we thought at the beginning is we were just going to have like all these super senior folks, giving her all this time, and we'd raise her up really quickly. A, we don't have enough senior folks to make this happen long term. But B, we found it was just too much of a distraction. And what we learned was that actually, for somebody who's really, really new, it was even better to have them get somebody who was kind of new teach them. And so the way that you solve this is just by getting your other junior developers to teach your super junior developers. And in the process, it teaches them skills of mentorship, and so it raises the bar on your entire team. Does that make sense? You awake? Raise your hand if you're awake. Okay, cool. So these are all cool. These are like all really awesome benefits, but this is not the reason why I'm up here on stage, because as much as I want you all to be successful in your own businesses, I have an ulterior motive. Who is from Chicago here? All right, so I'm going to talk to you for a minute, and the rest of you, I'm sorry. So this happened yesterday. Anyone see this? Teal came by, said, hey, if you're talented, head to the coasts. This is funny to me because people got really upset about this, and I think people got upset about this because in Chicago, sometimes we have a low self-esteem about not being Silicon Valley, and we're not going to become Silicon Valley. And we shouldn't want to, because that is a weird and toxic place to live. But if we're not that, sorry for the rest of you, but if we're not that, we need to figure out what we're going to be. And I was talking to my friend Matt Hoffman, and he gave me a really good definition for this. He said Chicago is real people solving real problems for other real people. And I think this fits, and I think that this happens partially because we live in an area with lots of real problems, and we're surrounded by a lot of different type of people in Chicago in a way that I think isn't the case out on the West Coast, for instance. And I think that apprenticeship is how we expand this. So we have a lot of blind spots. The more we are like each other, the more blind spots we have. And that stops us from solving the right problems, and that stops us from solving problems in the right way. And so when we can bring people in who have other life experience, and when we can bring people in who come from different backgrounds and bring your jazz musicians into your software development practice, we're going to solve problems better, and we're going to solve better problems. So I have a goal. This is my ulterior motive. My goal is that in Chicago, There should be no top-tier company that does not have an apprenticeship program. And I'm going to continuously flog all of you over the head until that happens, because this is what we need to do, and this is what we should be as a city and as a community. And for the rest of you, you'll have to catch up. Sorry about that. And I can help. Like I said, I am a consultant. This is what I do for a living. If you want, there's a bottom link here. I've done a bunch of case studies on other people's successful programs. Please feel free to go check those out. But whether or not you have that conversation with me, my hope is that you'll have that conversation with each other and see this as a possibility in a way that we can all keep getting better. And that's what I've got. Thank you.